There comes a point when an interview stops being a simple conversation and becomes an internal signal. Not because it's delivered in a polemical tone, but because it describes a mechanism that many prefer not to examine too closely. It is in this light that the interview given by Cardinal Raymond Burke to Vatican journalist Edward Pentin, published on January 16th and reported by Gloria TV, should be read. A seemingly calm dialogue, but one punctuated by phrases that, once isolated, paint a precise picture of the internal workings of the recent consistory. The first thing that emerges concerns the very structure of the meeting. Not an assembly for open discussion, not a true collegial debate, but an event constructed according to a logic already seen elsewhere. Fragmented discussion, tight time frames, limited space for individual input. Burke says it without emphasis, but with a clarity that leaves no room for forced interpretation. All the discussion took place in small groups, and then, in the general session, there was simply the secretary's report. The phrase is dry, almost bureaucratic, but its weight is evident. The plenary session, which traditionally should be the heart of the cardinal's discussions, is reduced to a moment of feedback, not dialogue. This opens up a second level of interpretation. The consistory structured in this way does not favor the actual circulation of ideas, but rather their channeling. Burke implies this when he explains that no truly free interventions were envisaged. Plenary sessions, those formally open to all, were limited in time and number. Each speech was limited to 3 minutes, the cardinal states, adding a figure that weighs like a millstone. Only 15 cardinals could speak in a session. Considering the presence of over 160 cardinals, the result is clear. Many remained silent, not by choice, but by structure. Silence, in this context, is not accidental. It is a direct consequence of the method. It is not organizational chaos, but a precise approach that prioritizes order over freedom, management over discussion. In small groups, Burke explains, the topics were assigned, and there was a whole structure that had to be followed at the tables. Here, too, the language is neutral, almost technical, but the meaning is clear. The starting point is not what the cardinals consider urgent, but rather what is indicated to them as such. This passage is crucial because it introduces a broader issue. When discussion is guided, when the topics are predefined, and the path is obligatory, collegiality risks becoming formal. The consistory remains, but its function is transformed. No longer a place of shared discernment, but a space for the application of a method. Burke never uses the term control, but the dynamic described implicitly invokes it. It is at this point that the interview takes a qualitative leap. From the consistory report, Burke moves on to what he considers the real crux of church governance. He does not do so with a polemical tone, nor with direct accusations, but with a sentence that, due to its simplicity, is explosive. The appointment of bishops is one of the most important things the Pope does. This is not a fringe opinion, but a conviction rooted in a precise vision of Catholic ecclesiology. Bishops are not simply local officials, but the guarantors of the transmission of the faith in the territories entrusted to them. This leads to another key statement, which Burke makes without attenuating. To carry out this task, the Pope must be truly vigilant, and have time to study those dossiers. The reference is not abstract. Episcopal nominations are complex, delicate, and often controversial. They require discernment, knowledge of local situations, and the ability to evaluate not only the pastoral profile, but also the doctrinal soundness of candidates. The emphasis on time is not accidental. Burke seems to suggest that an overly packed agenda of public meetings, travel, and symbolic events risks detracting from what structurally determines the Church's future. He doesn't say it openly, but the sequence of his statements points in that direction. It's an indirect criticism, but no less incisive for that. The high point of the interview comes with a phrase that Burke attributes to another cardinal, but which he consciously chooses to quote. "If the Church gets two things right, everything else will fall into place: the appointment of bishops and the management of seminaries." It's a brutal, almost reductive, yet powerful summary. Decades of reflection on the contemporary ecclesial crisis are compressed into a single sentence. This statement serves as a retrospective key to understanding the entire interview. The consistory without debate, the limited time, the assigned topics, everything is reinterpreted in light of a deeper concern. Who trains future priests and who leads the dioceses? If these two pillars are neglected or managed with inadequate criteria, any further reform risks being superficial. There's no personal attack in Burke's words. There are no direct accusations, nor are names explicitly mentioned, yet the message is unmistakable. Form matters, but it cannot replace substance. Synodality, if reduced to an organizational method, loses its soul. Dialogue, if confined to controlled spaces, ceases to be authentic. The interview as a whole doesn't sound like a vent, but rather a diagnosis. Burke speaks as a man who knows the inner workings of the Curia and ecclesiastical governance. Each sentence is measured, yet precisely for this reason, charged with meaning. There's no emphasis, no dramatization, but a sequence of observations that, when added together, outline a real tension. In this sense, the text cannot be dismissed as yet another critical voice. It is rather an internal signal, addressed to those who have ears to hear. The January consistory, as described, becomes the symbol of a church that risks privileging process over content, form over truth, method over mission. The interview's strength lies precisely in its sobriety. Burke never raises his voice, but lets the facts speak for themselves. Each speech lasts 3 minutes. 15 cardinals are interviewed. Anyone who reads carefully will understand that this is not a matter of nostalgia for the past, nor a prejudicial rejection of change. The crux of the matter is different. Without solid leadership in dioceses and authentic formation in seminaries, any reform remains fragile. And without true dialogue among the Church's pastors, even the most solemn decisions risk being borne already weakened. It simply recalls what, in the Catholic tradition, has always been considered essential. And it is precisely this sobriety that makes it disturbing for many, because what is being said is not new, but has too often been set aside. In the measured silence of a cardinal, weighing every word, an implicit question emerges. Who really decides the future of the Church? And by what criteria? The January consistory, as reported, provides no reassuring answers. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.